Coming up, young leaders gather in Dakota Territory. The Oglala Lakota open up a new art space, and the Salt River Pima Maricopa Indian Community welcomes youth baseball players. Plus, Montana tribes mourn the loss of a young relative. I'm Aaliyah Chavez. Join us for these interviews and headlines from the ICT Newscast.
This program is made possible by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, a private corporation funded by the American people.
Arizona State University welcomes 3,500 Indigenous students from Arizona and across the nation. It serves one of the largest populations of Indigenous students among U.S. colleges and universities. We created a sense of place for tribal nations to create futures of their own making through community outreach and research, taught by world-class Indigenous faculty where they see a reflection of themselves and their experiences. Find community at ASU.
Amarawa Hopa, thank you for joining us. We start in Washington, D.C. with a bill that would establish an investigation into the Native American boarding school system. The bill, passed unanimously by the Senate Committee on Indian Affairs, would create a Truth and Healing Commission. To update the bill, the committee used more than 100 written comments from tribal nations and Native organizations, as well as people. The commission would identify burial sites, locate church and government records, and document the ongoing impacts to Indigenous communities. Former leader of Canada's Truth and Reconciliation Commission, Marie Sinclair, said that without Native support, this bill would not be possible. The amended bill now heads to the full Senate for a vote on the legislation before it heads to the U.S. House if passed favorably. Society of American Indian Dentists met in Omaha, Nebraska. ICT's Shirley Sneve was there.
We have the largest number of student members of SED this year. So we have 46 student members, the largest number ever, which is amazing. Those students range from high school students to pre-dental college students to students in dental school now.
One of those students is Josie Johnson, a high school junior.
Back in Oklahoma, where I live, my small community, everybody's teeth is horrible because we just don't have access to dentists. And everybody jokes about it, but I know it's in a coping way because we're not even slightly middle class, we're all poor.
The graduating class of 2023, we have 5 graduates, 5 new dentists across the U.S. Who are Native graduating from dental school. To have equality just in this year's graduating class, we would need 105 students.
I was able to see and appreciate the art of dentistry. You had a tooth that was broken down or cavitated, had bacteria, and then to take that and remove all of the bad, cleanse the tooth, and then rebuild the tooth to be functional. I fell in love with that art of it. But I do like the fact that I can immediately help people. Sometimes it does take time when you go to the physician. You don't see the results right away, and sometimes people get lost to care and lost in the system. I mean, that happens in dentistry too. But at the same time, if someone comes in specifically for one tooth that is giving them a lot of pain, you see the results right away.
In Omaha, Nebraska, Shirley Sneve, ICT News.
For the first time, a Native American has been appointed to Wisconsin's Department of Natural Resources. Dylan Jennings, who is Bad River Ojibwe, was selected to join the department by Governor Tony Evers last week. Jennings is the former spokesman for the Great Lakes Indian Fish and Wildlife Commission and served on the Climate Change Task Force. He feels there's no shortage of issues when it comes to the environment. One of the initial concerns he hopes to tackle is the increasing levels of mercury in the state's fish population. Jennings says healthy fish resources are vital to the culture of tribal communities as well as Wisconsin's economy. In New Zealand, a popular Disney film is being adapted into the Maori language. The Pixar film Coco will be made in Maori, by Maoris, and for a Maori audience. It's the fourth film to be reimagined into the language and the first Academy Award-winning Pixar film to be remade in the country's only Indigenous dialect of Te Maori Reo. All of the characters will be revoiced for the language makeover by different Maori stars, including Rachel House and Troy Kingi. Indigenous production company Matewa Media will complete all of the film's post-production locally, which marks the first Maori remake to be completely made in country. The film is set to hit big screens on July 13th. And those are the headlines for the ICT Newscast.
For thousands of years, our people walked these lands. They hunted, fished, gathered. Every day they knew that their survival depended on each other. When they rested, they would celebrate their ancestors and tell their stories. They made it possible for us to survive in this land. Stories and traditions passed from one to another are at the heart of who we are. But when we are gone, who among you will pass on this knowledge and wisdom? You are the bridge. You are the stories. You are the heart. If you are facing the mountain you can't climb, don't give up. If you are hurting in your heart, don't be silent. If you are thinking about suicide, don't give in. You have the strength of generations in you. You are needed. To talk to someone who can help or to help someone you know, call or live chat the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. Call 1-800-273-TALK.
The National Congress of American Indians is the largest assembly of sovereign nations in the United States. Policies and programs affecting tribal nations are on the agenda with a look towards the future. Data shows Native youth under 25 make up 42% of the American Indian and Alaska Native population. That's compared to 34% of the general U.S. population. NCAI sponsored a program especially designed for young leaders. ICT's Paris Wise has this report.
NCAI's mid-year conference was held last week at Mystic Lake Casino on Dakota lands. Tribal leaders and government officials gathered, as well as the NCAI Youth Commission. The Youth Commission held programming of their own, including a cultural camp with painting and archery. The Hocho Karati Cultural Center gave the youth a unique opportunity to connect with the local lands and community.
We want to go beyond the land acknowledgement, so we reach out to the local planning committee that we normally have established with every conference that we are hosting, and we're able to work with individuals. And this opportunity came up with one of our local planning committee members. So we were invited to this beautiful facility that they have their culture camp, and give us a really hands-on approach about learning about the peoples and the culture that they're, that they have.
The Cultural Center holds about 80 events a year for the tribe and serves as a home to the community.
Yeah, Omidake Piwana de Dakota Makoche Dedi. We're here sitting on Dakota land, and within the state of Minnesota, our Dakota people really, not that we own the land, but we have our homelands here. And so the tribe started out with a very small acreage after our unfortunate time with these treaties, but we've grown to about 4,000 acres now. And one of the things that we wanted to do was provide natural habitat for our animal relatives and plant relatives. So we're sitting on about 700 acres of natural prairie grass. And what's cool is the bees, the butterflies, and these birds, they need this area to survive. And we've seen such a regrowth with their population, so it's been really nice. We do have some waterways, and we're actually really close to our old traditional village site, and so yeah, just nice to be out and about on the lands here, and we're just so happy that we have land to raise our families. And so it's an effort to help educate but promote culture, language, and encourage the youth to get more involved and just have fun. So really today, with this conference, it was an opportunity to be a good host. And so we have tribes from all over, and so many of them have never been here, so we want to provide a nice opportunity for them.
Not only does midyear have a lot to offer the youth, but the youth have a lot to offer the conference as well.
Well, I think the Youth Commission is really great because we're youth, and I think that's why it's important to have an age range on the youth, because it's we all have these similarities, and we all are seeing the world from this very unique perspective that leaders in government don't have and aren't referring to a lot of times. So on the Youth Commission, we see us talking about different patterns in our reservation life, in urban life, in academia, in just our cultural understandings and ways of growing up. And we see the problems in that, or the way that it's worked really well. And so we've had really good jokes and conversations and stories, and I think all of us have really been a little bit of a little family. And every time we reunite at these conferences, it's a big reunion, and we're all so happy to see each other, and we're always looking to get away and just spend some time with each other. Having youth with all of these leaders is essential to kind of how NCAI functions. We want to make sure that we're being heard, but also they're making informed decisions based on how their decisions are going to affect us. Because they're passing policies, they're looking at different bills and resolutions, and it's it doesn't matter unless you have the youth kind of engaged on those issues. And so us being here really is important for putting those policies and issues forward. But also I think it's great because we have the opportunity to bring in speakers that are young and that are making their own way, and it also then builds new relationships. And then it's now we have these young women and young men who are from around Indian country that are doing great things, that also are sharing their perspective and sharing their experiences, but they're also they're also showing us that these are the things we need to be focusing on.
We definitely want to make sure that they are provided a chance to learn about how they can grow as individuals, how they can be those future leaders. I tend to not say that they're going to be leaders in the future, because they already are taking that step by coming to our conference and being leaders in their own right. So I feel we're just kind of enhancing those skills and providing them these different ways to be advocates.
In Prior Lake, Minnesota, Paris Wise, ICT News.
Micah Westwolf was walking on the Flathead Reservation in Montana when she was struck by a car and killed. The investigation into her death continues after the accident over 2 months ago. Micah's mother, Carissa Heavy Runner, says she finds strength in her grief. ICT's Stewart Huntington has the story.
Blackfeet citizen Micah Westwolf was killed by a vehicle while walking along a highway on Montana's Flathead Reservation in March. More than 2 months later, no arrests have been made. A heavy weight hangs on Micah's mom, Carissa Heavy Runner.
Some days are harder than others.
The State Highway Patrol told ICT News that the case remains under active investigation, but Heavy Runner can't keep still. She put up a memorial by the road where her 22-year-old daughter died, wears a pin in her honor, and planted a tree for her.
I'm just taking it day by day, knowing who my daughter was, her character, her spirit, and she gives me strength. And she would always tell me, Mom, you're so strong. You're the strongest person I know. And how come you're so strong? And I would just say, well, because your grandma's, my mom. I said, we're all strong. We're Native women. And that's just how we are.
Heavy Runner also pulls strength from her daughter's writings.
I carry different one of her journals in my purse. That's what's given me strength to fight for my daughter. And I'm not going to fight with hate, because that's how other people, that's all they know. They fight with hate. You can't fight hate with hate. I will fight with love.
Now Heavy Runner and her supporters are planning 4 days of awareness walks for Micah and for other families living with loss. They say cases involving Native women get less attention from the authorities and from the media.
And that breaks my heart to hear that these families are struggling still and they can't have any closure or heal. And we're doing the walk as a statement that we want justice to be seen.
In Carbondale, Colorado, Stewart, Huntington, ICT News.
First Peoples Fund invests in the creative spirit of Indigenous artists and culture bearers. That came together during the grand opening of the Oglala Lakota Artspace last month, which brought the community together in Kyle, South Dakota. The space features studios for artists, crafts, and musicians. Lori Pourier is president and CEO of First Peoples Fund. ICT's Shirley Sneve asked her to reflect on her career and impact.
I've been doing this work my whole life. With First Peoples Fund, I joined First Peoples Fund in 1998, and First Peoples Fund was founded by a woman named Jennifer Easton, who had a donor-advised fund at the Tides Foundation in the San Francisco Bay Area. And she was trying to do micro-lending in Indian country, and it was really hard to, be based in San Francisco with a non-native person, leading the work in an institution that didn't know Indian country. And so they were making loans and they weren't being paid off. So I had met Kalima Rose, who was a part of some earlier work I did with the Indigenous Women's Network and was at the Tides Foundation as well. And so they brought me on, knowing my work with, earlier work with First Nations Development Institute and the Indigenous Women's Network. So that's how this work came to be. So I always say that the work extends before First Peoples Fund, because First Nations and our work there with Rebecca Adamson and Sherry Salway Black and Elsie Meeks and others, Gerald Sherman, we launched the Lakota Funds here on Pine Ridge. And during that time, my Uncle Richard did a research study through the Aspen Institute, and it was around the flow of funds and how money's distributed in local economies. And at that time, and it must have been probably 87 or so, 97 cents of the dollar was being circulated outside of this local economy. And so Lakota Funds was born, and really making loans to artists. So my grandma Olivia Blackout Pourier was one of the first ones to get a loan from the Lakota Funds in making quilts and to sell those quilts throughout the reservation to make quilts for graduation and other things. And as I said, 97 cents of that dollar was circulating outside of the local economy. And the major form of commerce here in the community was the government sector, right? So that's why Lakota Funds was born here on Pine Ridge, to just help build business. And Ivan Sorbo from the Pine Ridge Area Chamber of Commerce, who we've also been working with for a very long time, he said there was over 700 and some businesses now here, I believe, on Pine Ridge. So, that trajectory is a contribution of everybody, right, in terms of even the trajectory of the work with First Peoples Fund. So we had enough data, in advance to know why we should do the work we're doing at First Peoples Fund. So when we started First Peoples Fund in 1998, 1999, we convened not only artists, but we also brought in Lakota Funds, the other CDFIs. Eloise Cabal was involved with the earlier work, Elsie Meeks and others. And, because we knew that we wanted to also utilize their services, those informal networks and those networks that existed that would help businesses. So somewhere around 2011, we did our own research, and we partnered with a national organization called Artspace out of Minneapolis, and Kelly Lindquist is the founder of Artspace, one of the founders, and they had spaces all over the country. So we knew in our own research on the creative economy that there were specific needs for artists, because we did deep research all across this reservation and trying to figure out how to support artists as entrepreneurs. And we knew from that research that 51% of the households were engaged in some sort of home-based practice. And that was an extension from that earlier report I mentioned. It was a very active informal sector economy, they used to call it. And so, but from that 51%, 79% of those were engaged in some sort of tradition-based practice. So, mentioning my grandma Olivia Blackout, she was a quilter. And she was busy all time, all the way right up to graduation, right? We all have the grandmas, the aunties, and all them that make the quilts for the community so everybody can have their quilts for graduation. And so we also knew that later research that we did, that 40%, of those households in this economy were actually traditional artists. And so we really wanted to support community-based artists and helping them grow their business. And we started to do that work, and we've done it here since. And there were about 6 areas of needs in our surveys and interviewing artists. So it was access to informal networks, it was access to supplies, access to capital and materials. I mean, there was six different areas of support, but the distribution networks that support artists to do business. And we also knew that the CDFIs didn't have that knowledge of the distribution networks that support artists. So we needed other artists to teach emerging artists in communities like Pine Ridge, to be their mentors, like Donald Montello, who we honor today and recognize today, and Richard Red Owl and others. We needed them to mentor the young folks, because we also saw at the time many of those mentors now today that are elderly, they were the ones that were relocating and moving to the Southwest to make a living from their art. And so that's when we said we need to identify those that have moved away to come home, not come home, but be mentors, because they had been, have family now in the Southwest and all of that. So Don Montello and Linda Zabel and Paul Zabel and others have contributed heavily to coaching and mentoring and working with the young artists. So we did that work for many years, and then we also have a national fellowship program, in supporting artists as leaders, business leaders. And so then came the building in probably about 2013, right after the study. We really started to look at that area of space and how do we identify and support artists in this community, because we were hearing that they needed, everyone was kind of, that were practicing artists. Of that 41%, we all have those aunties and uncles, and you eat your dinner, make your dinner, and then you got to finish that beadwork, that quill work, the quilt, and so then everybody cleans off the kitchen table, and then you're visiting with family, right, making and creating till midnight or whatever to get ready for the show or to get ready for the tribe to purchase some art or whatever. So that's how we focused on the Oglala Lakota Artspace. Our dreams are actualizing right now. Our dreams are beginning to actualize, and you can see it today here in the space. People from all over the res community of artists, the young people are in charge of this building, the poets, the spoken word poets. Young Autumn White Eyes, who grew up in our program as a high school student, now leads that work. And so we have active poetry writing here. We have the Dances with Words program, of which the young people named. We have studio spaces for artists, so the hip hop artists are coming in, and these are often the young folks that are the creatives, in tribal community, but don't always have the same resources. They're not the basketball players, they're not in that trajectory. They're the ones that your spirits need to be fulfilled just by creating art. So that's what the dream is here for Oglala Lakota Artspace. So those next generation, we honored Richard and Donald today, and Cecilia Fire Thunder and others, and that's what Richard said. Red Owl, we need to step back because the young ones now are leading, and you can see it. All of them out here today at the Oglala Lakota Artspace. They're all creating, making, and selling work much different than we saw 23 years ago now, because they're all doing it online. They're all staying home in community and marketing and selling and distributing their work through social media and other ways. So we give them the space to not only create here, but to access all those other areas of needs for artists.
School is out, which means young people are finding ways to stay busy and active. ICT's Pacey Smith-Garcia reports on baseball bringing out team spirit.
The Salt River Fields at Talking Stick were full of energy with the Intertribal Youth Baseball and Softball Tournament hosted by the Arizona Diamondbacks. The tournament drew in teams from all across the country with the goal to play baseball and enjoy themselves. This year's winning baseball team was the Native AZ Elite based out of Gila River, followed by a tough-fought win from the tribe of Gad in Oklahoma. Coach Raul Rubalcaba spoke to ICT after the game.
Overwhelming. It's a great feeling to come out here and win this championship on my birthday today, so it's an amazing feeling. It's all I can ask for. These boys came out and gave it 110%, so hats off to them.
That sentiment was echoed by the players.
I'm feeling good. It's my 5th year in a row taking the tournament. I feel good. The team we had was amazing. We all came out, did our part, and I just feel really good right now about winning.
For this team, preparation started way before game time.
Usually prepare for quite a few months before due to the fact that all the kids come from different high schools. So we get them together a few months prior and get them going together and getting that chemistry back together. A lot of the boys played a lot when they were little together, so they got the chemistry there already.
In Phoenix, Arizona, Pacey Smith-Garcia, ICT News.
And that's a slice of our Indigenous world. For all the latest, visit ictnews.org. From all of us in the newsroom, stay safe, my relatives.
This program is made possible by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, a private corporation funded by the American people.